Today, I am so excited to interview Allison Statter. This is so fun. Leading up to this, I have to say, I've been spending a lot of time thinking about how, as we get older, and I'm older than you, but how you really, at least I do, really focus on my circles of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thinking lately, I'm so lucky. I have all these, really smart, interesting women in my really tight inner circle, but even in the 4 circles out of that. And at first, I was like, I'm so lucky. That's so, how did that happen? And then I'm like, well, actually, I think it was very purposeful. And like you, I have 3 boys. And so my family is everything to me. I spend so much time with my kids and they're such a huge priority, and my husband. So I just don't have time or energy for really people that aren't, fit that description, women that don't fit that description in my life, who are smart and interesting and nice and empathetic and cool and fun. And so I found at 48 years old, I have really cool women in my life. And then also the tangents out of that. So I met you, Allison, through our kids, through my youngest, your oldest son.
Yep.
And then also through a mutual friendship with Brett, who I've known, my whole life. I've known her since she was 12 years old. And so it's those kind of people that I get to meet and experience, and then maybe do something like this, an interview in a more professional setting, that make me feel really not just lucky, but really honestly proud of myself that I'm at a point where that's who I hone in on. So with that said, I'm really happy you're one of those women. And
I'm grateful. And I feel like, it's funny because, first of all, thank you for asking me to be on your podcast. I love doing podcasts. I find them to be very uplifting and therapeutic. And I love talking to other women. So Thank you so much for including me. And second to that, I am lucky that we have boys that connected, that brought us together, right? And you've abandoned me, but that's okay. I'm going to forgive you. But the thing about it is that I grew up in an environment. I come from 3 other siblings, a sister, an older sister, and 2 younger brothers. And, I was a middle child for a very, very long time. And I have a mom who has always, my entire life, been very, very, very vocal and very proactive about enriching and nurturing and giving your female friendships and the women in your life your attention and your love and your support. And I think that has really set that foundation for me. I've watched her go through life and have these friendships in her life and women in her life who have been incredibly important to her. And that has been passed along to me. And being a mom of 3 boys like yourself, I always love my friends who are other moms of 3 boys, because we have that one connection of, we don't have our daughter. We don't have a daughter, a female in the household to bond with and to relate to in certain areas and aspects of our lives. And so I get that out of my girlfriends. I get that out of my girlfriends' daughters even, and out of women that are just so important. And I think that we also now live in a time with social media and with the keeping up and the compare and the contrast, that it's more important now than ever to have those women in your life and those friendships in your life that are real and that they're based on who you are as a person and who they are as a person and how you connect through that. And I feel very lucky and very blessed for those. And it's becoming more and more rare, which is kind of crazy, because it's so natural and innate to my life are these friendships that I have built year over year, decade over decade.
My mom was the same way. She had so many really good friends. When she died, there were 2,000 people at my mom's funeral.
Wow.
And there were probably still to this day, 26 years later, I would say there's probably 100 women out there who will say to me, if I run into them, or I just know they would, your mom was my best friend. That is, and she used to say to us, and I have 2 older sisters and a little brother, not super dissimilar from your sibling upbringing, that friendships are hard work, friendships like any relationship. And she said this when we were younger, before we were in, serious relationships with our boyfriends or husbands, about, that you have to really, as you said, nurture them and time, year after year, decade after decade. And there's something really special about people that have known you forever and know your inside and out. And then these women that drop into your life because of, you know, because you have kids the same age, or because you have boys, because you live in a certain place. Like, I think and if you have that radar up, that I want to be around and surrounded by these women who are powerful and interesting and interested, I just think your life becomes so much richer.
It
And
does.
it does, right? And I think you're able then to lean on the women in your life also for balance. That's always the question. How do you balance? How do you balance your family, and how do you balance your work? And
Yeah.
how are you so successful across all the platforms? And I think the answer is one, you can't do it all at the same time, but also by leaning on these women that you've purposely brought in and nurtured in your life to figure out how to do it.
Oh, I tell my girlfriends all the time, I'm like, I'm nothing without you guys. Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I would be a ball on the floor, a puddle, like a mess. By the way, I have been, and they have been the ones that have picked me up, And I also just think women have a different skill set, and it's just different in terms of our ability and our desire to nurture those relationships, right? Like, I will say to my husband, I'll be like, Rich, you should be a little bit more proactive about making plans, or you should call this person, and it's not that they don't like those people. It's just they don't have a need for it the same way that women do, And I could literally, my friends and I have multiple, I'm very lucky. People always joke, they're like, how many best friends do you have? And I'm like, I have a lot of best friends because, I really feel that strongly for them. Like, a girlfriend of mine texted me last night and she was like, I have a favor. I'm like, anything for you. What do you need? Tell me. Whatever it is, I'll get it done, And that's just who I am and what I want to do for the people that I care about. And quite honestly, the people that fill my cup. Yeah. And they do that. My girlfriends do that. And I think it's funny too, because I have so many different best friends, and some of them have been in my life since I was in diapers. Some of them I don't even know my life without. Some of them have come into my life later in life. Some of them, like yourself, are newer, but that are, people that I know I can call and rely on, and that I trust their opinion and I trust their point of view. And I have, a group of girlfriends, and we'll send each other like memes about, I'm sure this is quite popular amongst many families now, of like buying a plot of land and all living together and raising our families together. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, because we all parent very similarly. We're all so supportive. We encourage, we're really genuinely happy for everyone's wins. We're really sad and, feel when our friends have losses and want to be there for them as well. And, I think that is just something that is critical. I actually have been joking. Like, I'm like, I understand why women are leaving their husbands for other women. Like, I understand it from like an emotional perspective, I don't know that and I don't pass judgment by any means, but like sometimes I see like other women in relationships with another women, and I'm like, I'm kind of jealous. Like, it's like living with your best friend, and
I totally know. Yes.
And that is like something that I don't take for granted, that I have these incredible friends in my life that have really, they've filled a void for me in so many different ways.
I agree. And there's something cool, I think, about making friends with people because of your children. And I used to be a little skeptical of it, because I was like, oh, you're just thrown into this. You don't, or do you have to be friends because your kids are friends? But there's something about, trusting someone with your kid that like immediately sets a bond. If you're a parent like I am and like you are, like I don't just, leave my kid anywhere, or when they were little in particular, drop them off anywhere, or say, sure, you can get in that family's car and go to, whatever, and I'll see you later. Like I take that very seriously. And I'm not a psycho parent. I'm not like a crazy, mom, all relative on the scale, of course. But I feel like that's such a wonderful and powerful bond when you're like, yeah, let my kid go to your house. And I have people in my life who do not do that. Like they don't trust their gut on first instinct with other people and their kids. For whatever reasons in their own past. But for me, I'm like, no, I get it. Like my kid's fine there. And my kids, now I have, two who are in college, so God knows what they're doing. But I hope I instilled something in them that they're being,
You did. 100% you did. I could
smart.
I could tell you that without knowing. I can tell knowing you and not knowing them, I can tell you that they're doing great.
They're good. They're good kids.
Yeah.
But I feel like I know when I can say, yeah, you can be there and call me when you want to be picked up. And if there's no service, I'll be fine too, because I know you're fine. I think that's a really powerful, really cool bond that moms have for sure. Maybe even more so with boys, because they can be so crazy in that teenage year where you're like, all right, I'm just going to assume because I feel like I know that she's not going to let them jump off the roof into the pool,
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think it's interesting because I do feel really lucky that, and I think you probably feel the same. I feel really lucky that my sons have picked really great friends whose parents I genuinely enjoy spending time with, right?
Yeah.
And that makes a difference. We're able to go on trips together. We're able to have experiences together, and it does make a difference. By the way, they also have friends that and I say this respectfully, like I don't connect with the parents, and that's okay too. It's just way more like matter of fact with the planning. And, I'm not going to be going out to dinner with some of them. And I think that both are totally fine. But yeah, I mean, as they get older too, right? Like you want to know that when they're at that house that you're like, okay, this family, this mom has, if not the same, very similar values and restrictions or all of the things that come with raising children and having a bunch of teenage boys at your house that they're safe. Or
they're going to go out together and make good decisions together. Like they're going to take that learning
and influence each other.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. I agree completely. And I think that I've been lucky in that. It's really funny. I was driving to work today and the kids started school yesterday and I'm just like a new person. I'm not going to lie. And I never thought I was that person that was like, oh, I need summer to end. And it's not that I needed summer to end. It's that I am most comfortable in my routine, in my rhythm, right? Yeah. Like I have a hard time with we're out of rhythm. It throws me mentally. It throws me physically. It throws me off. And so I was driving to work today and I was just like, God, I was like, I am so happy to be driving to my office.
Yeah.
And to know that my kids are in school till 3:30 and to know that I have this routine back in place because I think I literally had this thought driving here today, like my job is easy compared to parenting. Like shout out to single moms, shout out to moms raising their kids on their own, shout out to dads raising kids on their own, anyone who doesn't have a partner to be in it with. And shout out to the stay-at-home moms or the stay-at-home dads who don't have the outlet of their job to be able to go and have that break from parenting, because it is incredibly difficult because you're just holding on for dear life.
You are, especially if you're, and I've met parents who would not agree with that statement at all because their relationship with their kids and their family is so different. But if you're a mom like you and I am, it's a full on, there's no half-assing. There's no going at it 80%. It's 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And there's this crazy thing when your kids get older, it doesn't get actually easier. It's like bigger kids, bigger problems that you're starting to, I'm sure starting to see now. So I have a question for you, which is, with all that said, tell me about what it is about your amazing company that you've built, Blended Strategy, that allows you to, continue to thrive in your intellectual and professional space and get fulfilled, on that other side of your, the other side of your brain, let's say. So, you have this mom, beautiful, thriving parenting life, but then you've also built this amazing company, and clearly it fills your cup as well, so that you can do both and do both pretty fucking awesomely, if that's
Thank
a
you.
word.
I mean, it looks like I'm doing it awesomely on Instagram, but everything looks awesome on Instagram, like
Yeah,
I want
but
to.
we know you are because companies come and go and people build brands and they go. And I mean, you and I grew up, I mean, you're younger than I am, but grew up in a little bit of a different time where you didn't just
I'm
like
not
become
that much younger than you, babe.
you are.
I'm not. I'm 44. We're only
Okay,
3 years apart.
you're below 45. I feel like that's a big difference.
Barely, only a few more months.
I know. Oh my God.
I'm soaking it all in.
We'll talk about how you're celebrating that soon. But still, I think, we grew up in a time where it took a long time to build something. And of course, you went out and did this on your own. And I think that's insanely amazing and admirable. But you've been doing it for a long time and you've been doing it well. And if you didn't, it wouldn't exist anymore. Like that's the actual reality. Companies fade when they don't do well. And also when you aren't able to keep pushing forward. So just like dive in and tell me.
Well, thank you for saying that, because it's actually, no one's ever said that to me. And I like that. I'm going to keep that when I feel like a failure. And I'm like, but I'm still here, and you're right. You're 100% right. One, I think that I was born driven. I was born into a very driven family. Both of my parents have incredible work ethic. They're both very, very driven to constantly. I mean, my dad is 77 and he works harder than he's ever worked in his whole life. It's batshit where I'm like, what is going on? And my mom too. My mom works really hard and they're a team. And, I have a lot of very, very inspirational people around me. I have a lot of very driven people around me and it's in my DNA. It is in my blood. So even if I wanted to like I took a nap last week on a Friday at 3 p.m., even though we still had summer Fridays. And I woke up and I was like, whoa, oh my God, I took a nap. I haven't taken a nap in so long on a Friday, let alone, I don't even know the last time I took a nap on a Saturday or Sunday, let alone a work day. So, I think that is something that is just in me. And I think that I am someone who is very excited I love my job.
What is it about it that you love? Like, what is it that makes you tingle?
I did take a leap of faith and left the family business 10 years ago to start my own business. I did that for multiple reasons. I think that the biggest reason for doing it was just feeling like, that saying of where you take the harder path as opposed to the straight path.
Yeah.
I have always been the one who has had to take the harder path. It's not intentional. It's just how I move and where I've gravitated. I'm a college dropout. I went to multiple different schools. I went to boarding school my freshman and my sophomore year. So I feel like I am just this resilient, driven survivor, right? And I really genuinely love to work. I love to have a purpose. I love to do something that there's like that you see the reward of, whether it's a campaign, whether it's a business. I love to problem solve. I love to be able to work with other women. I've built this business over 9 years. We are in Los Angeles and we have a presence on the East Coast, but we are 25 women, and by the way, it's not on purpose. My father will be like, why don't you have any men that work there? I'm like, we have one. We have one in our accounting department and he's fantastic. And I admire the fact that he can work in this atmosphere surrounded by women.
Yeah.
And I think that I gravitate towards women and I think women gravitate towards me, to be completely honest with you. And I think that's one of the inspirations to coming to work every day. I love my team. I love getting to work with them. I love getting to see them out in the field doing what they're experts at and what they're great at. I love bringing opportunity into these walls and into this business for them to then go and shine. Right? Like that inspires me. You run a nonprofit in the women's health field. So what you're doing has like serious purpose and you're helping kind of save lives, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm not saving lives. So I'm always trying not to take myself too seriously in it and have fun with it and be inspired by it. And until I'm saving lives, I cannot take myself too seriously with it.
But I have to tell you something, even if you are, I still think that's an important lesson that I don't think we get till we're older. And I do think is incredibly important for anything, even if you're a neurosurgeon opening brains. Like the minute you take yourself really too seriously and think that, because I think that leads to, I'm the most important person in the room. Like I'm maybe not the smartest, but I'm that guy or I'm that girl. I think you lose touch. Like you lose touch with those around you. You lose touch with why you're doing it in the first place. I think everyone has to be able to not take themselves so seriously. And I think that's a huge factor in success and in long-term success. I really believe that hardcore.
Yeah. And I don't take myself too seriously. I take my work seriously.
Yeah.
Like I have a high bar. I expect certain things from people that work for me or with me. I try to be very self-aware, where like I don't ever want to be the person that walks in the room and people are like, "Oh, she has lost touch of the plot."
Yeah, we know people. Yes, and we both come across plenty of people like that.
Yeah. And like, what's the plot? What is the plot, right? The plot, and everyone might have a different one.
Yeah.
For me, it's that I want to raise this beautiful family that I am so incredibly blessed for. We could probably do a whole podcast on what it's like to be a woman and only be raising boys.
Yeah.
And what that
special place in heaven for us later.
What that means, especially in today's world and the generation, that we live in and all of the things. And I just want to do good work. Like that's it. That's all I care about. I don't ever, when I have clients who are like, oh, we're not really seeing the deliverable and we're not seeing the ROI on our investment. I'm like, okay, I am so sorry. Like, how do we fix it? How do we do better? Like, what aren't we giving you that we can be doing better? I don't, I think I spent the first half of my career fighting the fight and being defensive and being like, what do you mean? We did this, we did that. Da, 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 da. Now I'm kind of like, okay, I hear you. And, I'm in a service business, right? So at the end of the day, they're my paying client and I need to be very respectful of like what they're needing. And so for me, I tell my team, our repeat business is so important. That means that we're doing a fantastic job and our clients are happy with our service. So that's really important. And, I want them to get the best in class service. I think that my agency is a little bit different in that we're not mass, we're a bit smaller, a little bit nicher. I've spent the past, 18 months really reevaluating and reorging the business to be way more integrated in our approach and to be a bit more of consultancy as opposed to just agency of record, because I think that's going to set us up for so much more success.
And what have been your favorite either campaigns or just, projects that you've worked on in the last 9 years? Ones that are successful or inspire you or you feel like have helped push you to the next level or, really, those times when you look and you go, that was good. Like that felt good.
Yeah.
Like it looked good. It felt good. And you have that tangible, you can see it, touch it, taste it. You're like, that was awesome.
I think it's hard to pick one. I think that there's clients that I'm really proud of the evolution of the work that we've done. I think overall, just when I first started this business and, I had this like title of CEO, like I didn't come from that. I came from a management business and entertainment that I was born into and that I was bred into that is second nature to me. And so for me, and I worked for my family business and for my father directly for 17 years, right? And my dad has a really unique way of leadership that I admire. So when I first started Blended, I remember the first employee, my business partner was like, we need to give her a title. I'm like, why? Why do we need a title? Like we don't need titles here. Like I just want everyone to do a good job and be happy and, all the things. So I think that for me to quite honestly answer that question for you is like, coming through 9 years of this and, just knowing what we've done in the past 18 months here from a reorg perspective as well, like that to me is the biggest accomplishment because I now do understand what a CEO title requires and why people are CEOs, right? Whereas before I think I was just a manager and a leader.
Yeah.
And now I think that, coming out of that exercise, I do feel very informed and experienced and challenged and successful in that perspective, And then of course there's clients that we've had, we've worked with Ollie Vitamins for 8 years. So to me, that is a massive success. And the fact, they got acquired by Unilever during those 8 years, and we're the only agency that has stayed on through that Unilever acquisition. And for those who don't know, people that get acquired by conglomerates like a Unilever, there's typically agency mandates where you're like, you have to go and use these agencies that we're already paying.
Yeah.
And, I'm grateful to our Ollie clients who have also shifted over time, who have stayed with us and stuck with us. And I think that's a testament to who we are as a partnership, as a partner and as an agency. And we've gone through all different types of, work with them, from influencer marketing to PR to social to traditional celebrity procurement for TV campaigns, back to more influencer driven campaigns and everything in between. And so I think that is something I'm incredibly proud of. I'm really proud too of the work that comes out of my social division here, just in general. I think that social media is such an important piece to marketing now. It's not, people used to call it social media marketing or influencer marketing. It's not, it's just marketing.
Yeah.
And, the team in there does just such a fantastic job from a strategic perspective and understanding, what content drives growth and what content drives conversion and what content drives engagement and the frequency of that and how frequently you need to be doing it. And if you're putting paid against it, what does that look like? And just the knowledge that team has, I think is very, very incredible and really amazing. And my PR division is a really interesting division here too, because PR is just kind of shifting so rapidly, and the leadership within that division has done such a fantastic job of shifting with that, and making sure that they have their fingers on the pulse and that they're doing what they need to do to maintain the relationships at the editor level or the journalist level, because now the reality is these journalists and these editors are influencers.
Yeah.
So there's this overlap of like, what's PR, what's influencer, what's media, what's paid, what's not. And I think that overall, our agency just really has our finger on the pulse with all of it. And, procurement has always been my sweet spot. And, that's really what was the impetus of starting this business, was buying talent and helping brands buy talent, or helping talent find brands to partner with and negotiate those deals. That will always forever be like, whenever I see a campaign come to fruition, and we've done so many, I see the billboards, or I see the content roll out, or I see the TV commercials come, on the TV screen, or a digital buy it, and it's a preload. I'm a preview. I'm always just like, that's so rewarding, like to be like, oh, we did that. And that's fucking awesome.
Yeah. That's amazing. If you could when you look out, and you just spent, you said, a year and a half doing a company reorganization. And so what are you setting yourself up for? Obviously,
well, it took me about, I would say, 6 months to really like execute the reorg. And now we're reaping the benefits from it. Right.
Oh.
So a year later, or, 18 months later from the reorg, I see the shift, and I see the progress, and I see the improvement because of it.
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
Sometimes like you are trusting your gut, but you sort of go down these paths where you don't often know where you're going to end up with it, but it's right. And there's going to be, you just know there's going to be a positive outcome, but you don't know what it is.
It wasn't even like it was one of those things where I had no choice, right? To your point earlier in the conversation, it's a testament that the business is still here.
Yeah.
I don't know that we would have still been here had I not done it.
Yeah.
No, and not only now we're here and we're thriving. So that is like, I did a podcast yesterday.
Good, right?
Oh my God. I love it. It's just so great. And you know what else is like, I can roll with the punches better. I used to take everything so personally. Someone would quit and I'd be like, oh, why are you leaving? It's so great here. And now I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't be stuck in that anymore.
Yeah.
People are going to come, people are going to go, and clients are going to come, clients are going to go. And you just got to roll with it, and you got to let it just kind of move that way. And I have some incredible advisors within the organization and external to the organization who are helping me and who are advising me and who are getting me there. And I'm so incredibly indebted and grateful to those people.
Yeah.
I can't do it alone,
No, I mean, that's, anyone who says they are is just a liar to themselves and to everybody else. So there's a doctor we work with, and I've worked with her now since 2000, I want to say. So 20, almost 25 years.
Wow.
And she always says that, it's not so impressive on the nonprofit side. She's like, it wasn't so impressive. She said this in front of a ton of people. It's not so impressive that I started this foundation. Like my mom died young. There was tragedy, and lots of people do things and start things in the wake of tragedy. That wasn't so impressive. But what's been impressive is that 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years later, that we're still doing this. And I think that's a testament to commitment. But also what I've learned is the constant, like what you just went through. It's not necessarily a reorganization, but the constant ability to evaluate, right? And then to figure out how you can keep moving in the right direction, and not just forward, but like take a look at the world around you. And so, how, like you were saying, PR isn't PR anymore. My very first job out of college was working at a PR firm in New York. I mean, that was 1999. And
Wow.
so, and I learned a lot. It was my first time using Outlook. Like it was like, I learned a lot, and I learned a lot
Totally.
about just like systems within businesses and who you report to, like just like basic level stuff that I think even in a 1 year span was really important. But knowing that industries change, and that you have to, if you want to succeed, which means stick around and continue to be successful, to not like sort of stick your feet in the mud, and to be able to say, okay, this is what I want to do now so I can make, either a greater impact or do, the work more intensely and get better results. I think it takes a lot of introspection and a lot of chutzpah, which you clearly have, which I think is, awesome. And leaning on people who know more than you. I think that's one of the great things that happens to especially women in our 40s. We learn that like we don't know everything about everything. And the best thing is to be with people who know more than you about something and to let them run with it. Right.
By the way, that's who I surround myself with, right?
Yeah.
That's who the leadership at this organization are people who know more than me in their areas, right? So that is so important. And to be able to raise your hand and say, I don't know what I don't know, but I want to learn it, and not front that you know it. Like I do that all the time. I'll hear people, I'll be sitting in a room with someone or in a car with someone, whether it's a friend or, my mom or my dad or my brother or whoever. And I'll be like, wait, explain how this works to me. If I hear them talking about something, that I don't know about, I want to be like, tell me more, because that just is always going to benefit you no matter what. And I think too, my dream one day is to only be doing nonprofit work, right? That is my dream, is to just be giving back, because I have been given so much in this life, and it doesn't get past me very easily how lucky I am and how blessed I am. There are certain things that I have not had to work hard for, and I'm aware of that, and I know that. But there's other things that I've had to work much harder than a lot of other people because of that too.
Totally.
Right.
Totally.
And I sit on a couple boards of nonprofits, and I love getting on those board meetings. I love being impactful in those environments and being helpful to those environments, because like I said earlier, like that's the work that is really making a difference. And that's really making a change. One of my best friends is Nora Weinstein, who runs Baby to Baby. And, I always am advocating for Baby to Baby. And I'm always saying that they are boots on the ground, and they are effective, and they are immediate, and they are making a difference to children and to families who cannot afford basic necessities. And as long as they're going to do that over and over again, I am going to continue to support and leverage my network and my resources to help that. I sit on the board of an Alzheimer's charity called Hilarity for Charity. We lost my mother-in-law to Alzheimer's very early. She was diagnosed at 59 years old. My husband and I had just started dating, and she got a diagnosis. And it was so impactful to me and on me, watching not just her, but watching my husband and my father-in-law and the rest of the family, her sisters, go through that. It is just a terrible disease as a caretaker.
Oh yeah, it's the worst. My father-in-law had it and passed away from it as well. It's the worst. It's really awful.
It's awful. And the reality is that it was so taboo. It still is so taboo, right?
Yeah.
And so Hilarity for Charity, similar to Baby, but more in the Alzheimer's area, is like, they are impactful from an immediate perspective, right? Granting hours of care to families who can't afford it, granting, providing supplies from diapers to, whatever it is that they need for their loved one, providing support groups for the caregivers, providing, education platforms for people to be preventative from a brain health perspective. And those types of things are so incredibly valuable to me, and they are so important to me. And if I wasn't doing them, I don't know. I don't know that I'd be okay with myself, quite honestly.
Yeah. I think there's something, I think it's like you said at the beginning, it's just filling your cup, and it's being really intentional about it. And I think it's a wonderful thing to have lots of droplets going in there, as long as they all are fulfilling to you, and then they make you a bigger, better person so that you can do all the things that you do, the best. Not all the time, but you can be your best self and be the best person you can be, and continue to grow in that way. Well, this has been awesome, and I could talk to you obviously for many hours. But thank you for doing this. Just to add
one thing too that you were saying about like the evolution and to keep going. I was somewhere yesterday and there was this picture on the wall, and it was a cassette tape, which you and I know what a cassette tape is. A lot of young people don't know what a cassette tape is, but it was a cassette tape, and on it said, "Take a pause, but don't stop." Like, take a pause if you need to, but don't stop.
Yeah.
And it really, I just loved that so much, because I think, I don't always take a pause. I'm always just like, no, I have to go, because I have these big goals and dreams for myself. And I have these people around me who have achieved incredible levels of success. And those are my bars to get to. And I think that just resonates with me so much of take a pause if you have to, but don't ever stop. Just keep going, because one day you're going to get there.
I agree. And maybe part of the goal is there's no end line. There's no finish line. It's just
there isn't.
Constantly evolving and constantly, continuing to do, and you can pivot and shift and change, but to keep moving in that direction, which at different points in your life, it can really zig and zag, but to keep moving in a way that, brings you true joy and fulfillment. And to me, the most important thing in life is to have purpose. And the purpose can be, the most altruistic thing that you can think of, or just purpose in having feeling good in the morning and doing well for your children and your family and yourself. To me, that is ultimate purpose. And so to keep moving in that direction where you pause and you take a breath and you smell the flowers, all those things. But then push play again.
We can't give up for our kids either. That's not an option. That's definitely, not an option. My kids will be like, "Why aren't you home for dinner?" I'm like, "'Cause mom's got to fucking work, guys." So sorry, I'm home every other night, or I'm with you all weekend traveling around this city on soccer tournaments and all the things. So,
you'll be just fine. And it's good for them too. It
is. It's really good for them. Well, we miss you. We miss
thanks,
your
Allison.
family.
You're so sweet.
And I'm grateful to you for inviting me on this. And hopefully when you're back in town, we can do a fun lunch or dinner or something with everybody.
I would love it.
I would too. All right, hun. Thank you
Have
so much.
Have a good long weekend.
You too.
Yeah, deserve it.
Thank you. Mwah.
Bye.